All right. Next thing here I want to hit on is this comment from Matt LaFleur. If I can get me a screen grab ready here in just a second. I'm going to pull this up. This was on Up and Adams with Kay Adams earlier today, or whenever it posted or what have you. But I want you guys to hear what he said about Romeo Doubs. To this point, I've been going, man, I'm worried because I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, Romeo Doubs has not been in-house yet for the offseason program, right? Well, I think you'll be happy with this. If you're a Romeo Doubs fan, if you're not, you're going to be unhappy. You might want to change the channel. But here's Matt LaFleur being asked about Romeo Doubs.
I do think we have a very, very competitive receiver room. I think it's as deep as anybody in the league. And I love how our guys go out there and compete and push each other. And, it's been pretty cool to watch the veterans, although that there's a first rounder coming in the room. There's a third rounder coming in the room. Just how they've embraced those guys and, taking them in, and they're coaching them up out on the field. And shoot, we were out there earlier today, and I went over to tell Matthew something about one of his routes. And I was just about to start talking, and then Romeo Doubs grabbed him and started talking. And I said, "Hey, you talking about the Dover?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, you got him." So, but that's a pretty cool thing to watch these guys. That's something that we're stressing with our team. We have a young team. We've had the youngest team the last 2 years, and just, it's important, I think, just to develop the leadership that is needed, that when you get into those, tough division games or playoff type games, that you have a player-led team that can help get you through those tough moments.
So how about that, gents? Romeo Doubs not only in-house, but Matt LaFleur name dropping him, saying that he's helping the first round pick in practice. Pretty
I just caught the ball, man.
Pretty darn cool, man. Pretty darn cool. There you go, two over this. I hope Doubs tells everyone his secret to catching the ball is just catch the ball. So, what do y'all think about that, man? Am I getting my hopes up here? You think he's still maybe gone, maybe traded, or you think this is a sign that, hey, Dobby might be sticking around?
I think that it is exactly what we wanted to hear, especially myself. We all get so wrapped up in the drama and the headlines and all the every single minute, it seems like, especially during the draft and certain periods, that it's just tons and tons of information. And we maybe get a little bit sidetracked in believing some of the press releases that come out. And I think one of the best quotes I ever heard is, "Don't believe your own press releases." And I think that a lot of it, maybe we got too high on our horse thinking that we know a certain thing, like Jaw's gone, Romeo's going to get traded, Malik's going to get traded, all this kind of stuff, where it just isn't the case a lot of the times. And you can tell right there, that to me doesn't seem like Matt LaFleur randomly just bringing that up just for nothing. I think that he strategically knew what he was doing, maybe knows that, hey, Rome feels a certain way, maybe Jaden feels a certain way. What I'm going to do as a coach that is a guy that, I don't think he's a people pleaser, but I think he's cognizant enough to understand that you have a locker room full of egos and personalities, and it's part of your job is to wrangle those in, and not to like baby certain players, but to definitely understand that, hey, sometimes a dude just needs to understand, hey, give him an attaboy. You know what I mean? Sometimes a guy needs to understand that when a veteran reaches out to a new player, they want that to be highlighted, to see, like, that's what we do here. I'm going to call you out by name, and it's not going to be a big thing. It's a small thing, but it's going to go noticed by, I think, the franchise and hopefully by the media, but I don't think they will. They're not going to realize that. And the biggest thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up and let Emilio take over. I think I saw Greg Rice say crowded wide receiver room. Yeah, I'd rather have it be crowded than not crowded, because I guarantee we're going to have injuries on one or two, or God forbid, more of these guys. I'd rather have a deep hopper and a deep lineup to let them come in and compete.
Yeah, just like The Office, Jacob, you want those extra tips, right, man?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Emilio. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's the truth. I mean, you never know what you're going to have. We already saw that Christian got hurt, right? He's going to be coming back from PUP. We'll have to find a spot for him when that time comes. But in that time period, you never know what's going to happen. You never know if someone is going to have an injury, or someone just blows up and, is the number one and is, showing out, closing in on 1,000 yards by the time Christian gets back. That would be huge. It could be Jaden Reed, Wicks, whoever it is, could be golden. But having the options is, as I think, a nice luxury, though everyone is young, right? So that's kind of where you're playing that. You have a bunch of options, but how weathered are they? How used to the game, to the scheme, the NFL, all that I think that's something that you can kind of build on the young guys a little bit sooner when you have, Romeo and Jaden Reed stepping up and, giving the young guys some ideas, teaching them different things. And I think that having, it's like you get out of JV or you get out of modified into JV football, right? Then you're playing with the varsity guys. You have 12th graders, crushing on 9th graders. But hey, you gotta be the scout team, right, Jacob? I mean, I know they put you in a nose guard a couple times, but you got to learn from someone, and as long as they pick you up and teach you along the way, I think it's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And a cool conversation. I think this is going to tie in really well when you're talking about, players helping each other at specific positions and whatnot, and a little bit of history tied in here as well. We put together an article over in our Patreon community, Patreon group, and it's about Robert Brooks, and he was actually on the I'm gonna drop that chat down for just a second so we can see this. He was actually on the Wildy and Tao show earlier today, and I want you guys to listen to this story he told, and we're gonna kind of tell the Robert Brooks story a little bit and talk about how things kind of shifted. First of all, the Lambo Leap, he doesn't get enough credit for that, and kind of talk about how things shifted when they decided to move on from Sterling Sharp and they kind of went to this wide receiver by committee type thing as opposed to, it's common knowledge that Brett Favre started to play way better football when Sterling Sharp left because he stopped forcing the ball to Sterling, right? And Sterling was very vocal on wanting the football as well. But nonetheless, let's hear what he had to say on the Wildy and Tao show earlier today. If you guys have not checked this out, I'm telling you, you got to listen to it. Their show today was unbelievable. They were live at a golf event. It got rained out for most of the day, and it was just Packers legend after legend after legend. It was unbelievable. So here is Robert Brooks on Wildy and Tao from earlier today.
Now, let me ask you this, though, because this is why I brought it up. You talked about why you did it. Yep. Obviously, and I think Leroy is scheduled to appear at Tellurian as well, right?
He is, yes.
I always found it fascinating. He's in the Hall of Fame. He uses the Lambo Leap as a great marketing tool for him, along with his gold jacket. But I always said he invented it, but you perfected it. Yeah, Do you feel like you get enough credit for that?
Look at Wildy stirring that pot.
Listen,
this is what he does. He's a pot stirrer.
If you look at the film, I mean, he jumped in this crowd that one time in 93. 94, nobody jumped in the crowd. He didn't. It was not even a thing in 94. And in 95, when I started doing it, it became this,
So Leroy and Reggie, that Oakland game, that was one and done.
Yeah.
And then they went a full.
I did not know this. They did the first Lambo Leap. Leroy Butler did after Reggie White recovered the fumble and pitched it to him. And I just thought Leroy just kept doing it, and it was just a big thing. They went a full season without doing that. Yeah, so check this out. And listen to why he says it's very brief, and you got to really pay attention. But he talks a little. He mentions briefly the riff between the fans and Sterling Sharp over him wanting a bigger contract, and he used the Lambo Leap to kind of create that bond with the fans and the players. Really cool.
Whole season with nothing?
Yeah,
I know your history. Is that right?
100%.
Yes. Wow.
That's the real story.
And you just decided to
I told
get
you
it
because
about
of Sterling and the situation with the fans and how I became the default go-to guy. I decided I'm gonna jump in the crowd. So that's the way the story is told. I said, Roy, I'm gonna use that gesture, my man, and I proceeded to jump all in the stands. And so you see, the rest is just history. There's a special bond between the players and fans. You see.
He's dropping lyrics right there for you. For those of you that are too young to reference it.
So if you guys don't know what he's talking about there with the lyrics.
He's got a rap album.
Yeah, he's got a rap album. He's got another song ready too. He said he's just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to retire, and it's basically it kind of sets off the Jordan Love era. He's trying to threw a wrench in it. He said he was ready to do it if Aaron retired, and then he went to the Jets. Now he may be going to the Steelers, so he's having to hold off on it. So if you guys have not heard that song, Jump in the Stands, it is cringy, but I love it.
It's a banger, Clayton. How dare you?
I think some would call it a banger. But, anyway, go ahead, Jake.
Just Itchy Soder. I remember seeing the highlight, dude, in 1995. That was a great year for me.
We're about to talk about all that, man.
Are you? Yeah. Okay. 102 receptions, 1,400 yards, 13 tuds in 95. He was on track to be a superstar. He was my
and
favorite.
Emilio,
by far.
many fans are like you, Emilio, too young to remember this, right? Like you know, how old were you in 1995, Emilio? Roughly?
I was born in 95.
Oh my God.
You say you weren't born?
I was, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Born in
And 95. I actually, no, I probably, yeah, it was, yeah. So I was born by the time they probably
Do you not know your birthday, buddy? Or you got to remember a fake one?
Yeah, well, it depends. I wasn't sure if I was counting OTAs and mini camp and all that. So,
all right. So let's dive into some info here and talk about how the receiving core kind of evolved from 1994 on. Okay. So the Green Bay Packers wide receiver, Robert Brooks, one of the most underappreciated players in Packers history. Unfortunately, Brooks' career was altered with an ACL injury in 96, sidelining him for the team's Super Bowl run. He was never the same player after that, and mentioned how far medicine has advanced, seeing that he still has a wire inside his knee as a part of the ACL repair. They made it sound like it was a metal wire in his knee.
That's weird. Yeah.
Look at his career statistics here. Starting in 92, 126 yards, 1 touchdown, 180 yards, no touchdowns. And then in 94, that was Sterling Sharp's final year in Green Bay, 648 yards with 4 touchdowns. And then 95, bang, 1,497 yards receiving for 13 touchdowns. 96 is when he tears the ACL. He drops to 344 and 4 touchdowns. 97, he jumps back up over 1,000 with 1,010 and 7 touchdowns. And then he had 420 yards in 98 with 3 touchdowns. And he mentioned that he kept popping his left hammy. This is the stuff we talked about with Christian Watson. Like the gurus on Twitter were like, it's not even the same knee. He's just injury prone. It's because you overcompensate, right? And you start to tear other muscles. You start to screw other things up. And he said he had back issues as well because he's trying to overcompensate to get the knee right. And again, knee surgery back then was way different. Many Packer fans have no idea that without Robert Brooks, the Lambo Leap would not have become so popular. He pretty much told that story right there. I'm going to fast forward ahead. It says Brooks went on to say that his intent was to form a bond with the fans in Green Bay in a time when Sterling Sharp's situation with the fans, most likely from a contract dispute, was caused a little rift. So evidently he was trying to hold out for a new contract, and it was causing a thing. He was wanting way more targets as well. I love Sterling Sharp. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad he's in the Hall of Fame. But that he was that one of those first receivers that was like, get me the damn ball, get me the damn ball. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but Mike Holmgren's West Coast offense was not designed to just go, hey, we're going to throw the ball to that guy every single play, right? So there, obviously, Robert Brooks doing the Lambo Leap. Okay, here we go. In another video that I can only attach one video to this, so we couldn't post it, right? In a recent interview with Willie and Tausch, which was today, he spoke about playing alongside newest Pro Football Hall of Famer Sterling Sharp. There's no denying that Sharp is one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history. With that sometimes comes a sense of I am the guy that can steer targets into coverage as opposed to scheming guys open. Brooks pointed out today, not in an overly negative way, I don't want to misrepresent this, but he was just talking about how Sterling didn't help him. Sterling didn't go, come here, little fella, let me take you under my wing and show you how to do this. Sterling was like, get me the damn ball, get me the damn ball. Okay. He said how their offense really opened up after Sharp's time in Green Bay came to an end because he started to mentor people like Antonio Freeman, and it became an us thing, is what he went on to say. Okay. So obviously Sterling Sharp's a dog. I mean, look how big he was, man. He's a specimen. Like seriously, he was almost tight end size back then. You know what I mean? He also mentioned Sharp didn't spend much time teaching him how to play the position and how that made him want to mentor young guys, specifically a young Antonio Freeman. It was that approach that then influenced Antonio Freeman to be the same type of teammate. All right. As Wildy pointed out, this seemed to force a shift in the Packers organization that would lead to decades of the team having an us approach to the wide receiver room. Let's take a look at the Packers receiving stats beginning in 94, Sterling Sharp's last season. So when you look at 94, Sterling Sharp led the way 1,119 yards and 18 touchdowns. Dog. Absolute dog. And that was back when they were playing how many games? Just 16, right? 16. I would imagine. Maybe.
Yep. I
don't think it was less. So, yeah, right around there. So Robert Brooks came in second with 648 and 4 touchdowns. Edgar Bennett had 78 catches that year.
Wow.
And then we were talking about that pro set, Emilio, running West Coast offense, throwing to the backs out of the backfield. You would supplement the lack of a run game. Not that Edgar Bennett and Dorsey Levens couldn't run the football, but you would check it down to them, and it would be an extension of the run game, essentially. Anthony Morgan, 397 yards. All right, 95. Robert Brooks blows up, right? Sterling Sharp's now gone because of the injury. 1,497 yards, 13 touchdowns for Robert Brooks. Mark Chimura, tied in. 679 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. Edgar Bennett had 61 receptions for 648 yards and 4 touchdowns. Mark Ingram, 469, 3 touchdowns. Dorsey Levens, 48 catches for 434 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, look how many – you had over 1,000 yards to the running backs that year.
That's crazy.
Receiving. That's absolutely crazy.
Keith Jackson.
Yeah. Now you see a young – you notice here too, look for Antonio Freeman. His rookie year, I guess, was 95. So in 95, when Robert Brooks blew up, Antonio Freeman just got his first action, right? 106 yards. So he was talking about trying to take him under his wing and bring these younger guys along, right? When 96, he tears his ACL. Look who jumps to the top. Antonio Freeman with 933 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns.
Don Beebe.
Yeah. 699 yards for Don Beebe with 4 touchdowns. Look at Keith Jackson. Just the other morning, I had breakfast at Tracy Rucker's house. His mama brought out 15 flapjacks. He said, "Mama, take back 5 of them flapjacks. I got to stay hungry
for the Crimson Tide."
I'm not going to, so quit asking.
So Keith Jackson, 505 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns that year. Mark Chimura, 370 yards receiving, no touchdowns. Robert Brooks, obviously the 344 with the ACL, only 4 touchdowns. Dorsey Levens, 226 with 5 touchdowns. William Henderson burst on the scene that year as well, right? Edgar Bennett, that was another thing that they talked about on Wildy and Tausch was how Edgar Bennett and Dorsey Levens was on the show talking about how Edgar Bennett would not mentor him. He wasn't having it. Good friends, but it was like, man, I got to get my touches as opposed to Dorsey coming in and taking touches.
You know what's crazy, Clayton? Can you just scroll up to the top of this chart? Every year, the Packers are so good at – you look at the bottom of their roster, you got Terry Mickens and Dorsey Levens. Then you click to the next year, and Mark Chimura is kind of non-existent. And then you go to 95, and all of a sudden you see Chimura there, number 2, Dorsey Levens clanking up. And then who's there at the bottom? It's Antonio Freeman, William Henderson. You go to the next year, and all of a sudden at the top of the list, you start seeing Antonio Freeman, William Henderson. Then below that, you see Andre Rison and Desmond Howard. I guess that if you get to the next, yep. Boom.
Now look at this. In 97, Robert Brooks is now gone, right? And look at Antonio Freeman. I'm sorry, Robert Brooks is still there. You got Antonio Freeman now leading the charge, 1,243 yards and 12 touchdowns. Robert Brooks is now second at 1,010 and 7 touchdowns. Not once did Robert Brooks say in that interview, like, yeah, man, Antonio Freeman, he was getting my touches. It was about us. And you've seen in 97, they had a better team in 97 than they did 96. They were heavy favorites to win that Super Bowl when they end up losing to the Broncos. If you remember that. Chimura, 417, 6 touchdowns. You had Derek Mays, a couple other guys. Don Beebe still hanging on by a thread there. But you see 2 receivers stepping up, 2,000-yard receivers, right?
Billy Schrader. Remember Billy Schrader?
I remember Billy Schrader. All right, 1998. Antonio Freeman absolutely blows up. Now Robert Brooks is really drifting away. That's when the back injury and everything started to emerge, the hamstrings. He drops down to 420, but Antonio Freeman now goes up to 1,424 yards. Okay, Mark Chimura, 554. Bill Schroeder, 452. Robert Brooks, to 420. Derek Mays, 394. And it's just the point of, like, you can see how something shifted to where it was like, all right, the older receivers are starting to bring the younger receivers on, and they're kind of working in tandem, moving the ball around. 99, you had Antonio Freeman and Bill Schroeder both eclipse 1,000 yards receiving with 6 touchdowns and 5 touchdowns. Corey Bradford came on the scene. He had 637 yards receiving. Dorsey Levens with 573. Tyrone Davis, 204. William Henderson, 203. Right? And now you're seeing Chimura kind of fade away, right? He only played 2 games that year.
Look who's on the bottom of that list, Clayton. Third from the top. Third from
the
bottom.
Donald Driver, right? So you're seeing, now Donald Driver comes on the scene here. 7th-round pick.
That's crazy.
All right, now this is where it gets a little tricky because for whatever reason, ESPN did not have the stats for the Packers starting in 2000. I don't know why. They had the older, but not these. And the way this is broken down, this is definitely receiving. A couple of these get a little wonky here in a minute. But Amon Green had 73 catches. He had the most catches of anybody on the team running back, 559 yards receiving that year. Bill Schroeder had 65 catches for 999 yards. Antonio Freeman had 62 catches for 912 yards. So what you notice in there, and look at Driver now jumps up to 322. He's starting to climb, right? But again, the two leading receivers there, Bill Schroeder and Antonio Freeman, both with 900 yards receiving. So 2001, this is where they, for whatever reason, Pro Football Reference combines rushing and receiving. So it's kind of hard to get this just total scrimmage yards. So the receivers, is pretty much receiving yardage. However, Amon Green total scrimmage yards that year, I'm telling you, this dude was a dog. If you guys have not watched the tape on Amon Green, go back and find highlight reels. What an unbelievable Packer. 1,981 total yards that year for him. Bill Schroeder had 924. Antonio Freeman had 813. Corey Bradford had 526. Dorsey Levens, that's all purpose there, so we won't count it. Bubba Franks was, 322, and then Donald Driver settling in at 205 that year. So, again, just wanted to kind of walk back in history and talk about what Robert Brooks had mentioned there in terms of, how they how things kind of shifted from Sterling Sharp just being the guy to, hey, we need to kind of do this together. I thought it was really cool. So, Emilio, did you learn anything there, man? I know you talked about it, but when I mentioned this to Emilio pre-show, he said, I don't know much about Robert Brooks, man. Help me out here.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm going to have to do a little research tonight because, man, it kind of gets me excited about the receivers we have here, right? So, you have a guy that's been there, then you draft somebody, then an injury happens, somebody gets pulled up. Then you keep drafting, you keep bringing in new guys, and Donald Driver hops in there at the end. I think it's awesome that, they've kind of done this before. Let's see where it goes moving forward. And this is before the wide receiver room said no sleeves. I like to see that upgraded there. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
So how about this? How about we do a quick little chalk talk on Robert Brooks? All right. I'm going to play a clip here in a second. Now, listen, guys, we got to end on YouTube, okay? As you guys know the rules here. I'll see if I can maybe cut this video and upload it later on YouTube. We're going to stay live on X and stay live on Rumble. So you got a couple minutes. Hop in there real quick if you want to watch this. Robert Brooks went on in that interview with Wildy and Tausch and talked about they asked him about the 99-yard touchdown catch he had. I think it was in either 94 or 95. He had a 99-yard touchdown catch on 3rd and 10 from their own 1-yard line. It's the coolest story ever. We're going to break it down a little mini chalk talk, and then we'll wrap up. So Bates is already in Rumble. You guys hop over there. Again, the link is in the description, all that good stuff. Or you can just hop over to my X account at Packers_. Jacob is gone. All right, so we'll see you guys over there. We're going to end here on YouTube. All right, Emilio, will you confirm that we are off on YouTube?
I am double checking.
It says it's finished on my end here. So.
Yep, finished on mine as well.
All right, sweet. Let's play this clip. This is really cool, man. I got really excited about this. As soon as I heard him say it, tell this story, I immediately said, I got to go find that. I got to go find that specific play. So we went and found it. And if I go over to our Chalk Talk area here, all right, and we're still live on Rumble and X.